Hello, everybody. Welcome to Aztec Multimedia. We are live, and we are going to talk a little bit tonight about the uh, 2020 election that is happening as we speak. We are coming in a little bit late because we only have about because I only have 3 hours to actually do this. But excuse me. Want to talk a little bit about it. Don't know how long we're going to stay, but we've gotten results. Looks like we've got quite a few states already reporting in, um, as we've got some uh, polls that have shut down pretty much from up through the uh, Mountain Time Zone. Excuse me. And according to the uh, presidential results, 2020 U.S. election results, at 10:06 this evening, uh, Joe Biden was ahead, 131 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 98. But that still leaves uh, Montana, Idaho, Nevada, Washington, Oregon, and California yet to report. Um, of the swing states that have reported in, Joe Biden, with 65% of the precincts reporting, is ahead in Arizona 55.2% to Trump's 53.5%. Or, I'm sorry, 43.5%. That would have been really weird. That's actually one of the things I was actually kind of waiting to see is, will we see a ridiculous number of votes that end up getting counted this year, um, that actually outnumber the number of the actual population of the United States? I thought that would be really interesting to try to explain away how we have 200 and uh, roughly 200 million voters, and 280 or 290 million people, or 350 or 360 million, which is actually more than the population of the United States, end up turning in ballots, and or votes ended up getting counted for uh, this election. And it is, um, but to continue on, with 54, that Florida with 91% of precincts reporting, Donald Trump is ahead 51.3% with 5,611,000 votes. Rumor is, from what we could see on the maps and some of the other things that I'd watched earlier tonight, Donald Trump cleaned up in Miami-Dade, and the minority vote came out to vote for him. And um, it was really big. Miami-Dade swings Florida, and with all the extra votes that he was picking up in Miami-Dade County, um, it looks like it swung his direction. Uh, Georgia with 54% of precincts reporting, Donald Trump has a relatively comfortable lead with 400,000 votes, with 55.8% of the votes. Um, Iowa with 4% of precincts reporting in Iowa, Joe Biden does lead there with 51.5%, and Donald Trump is sitting at 47.2. It's early counting, 12% now, and Joe Biden is pulling away. They just updated. Joe Biden is pulling away with 66.6% of the vote, and Donald Trump with 31.9. That's 136 votes for Joe Biden, 136,000 votes for Joe Biden to 65,000 for Donald Trump. Michigan, with 32% of precincts reporting, has Donald Trump up 56.3% with just over a million votes total. And like I said, that's 33% of the vote reporting of the precincts reporting there. And we all know, if you've paid any attention to uh, the political landscape in the U.S. this year, Michigan was kind of a hot spot for a while. And it's always a swing state. It's been a it's a swing state, so it's always really important in during the election itself. But this year there was a lot of contention going on and a lot of things that were coming up, not particularly um, kosher in the state overall. Uh, so, like I said, Nevada is not showing any results as yet. Um, let's update this real quick. Uh, New Hampshire is with 28% of precincts reporting. New Hampshire has Joe Biden with 53.7% of the vote. North Carolina is really close with 90% of the vote in, with 49.7% for Donald Trump. That's 2,601,806 for Donald Trump votes, and 49.1% at 2,571,633 votes for Joe Biden. So this is going to be a really close state. This one really won't be able to be called this evening. They've already talked and said that they will probably be um, at least at earliest tomorrow before they have all the absentee ballots counted, and that could really swing this. I don't know how many ballots they have to count, how many actually mail-in votes they had, but that could be an important aspect of the North Carolina vote and where those 15 electoral votes go. Ohio, with 79% of precincts reporting, has Donald Trump up 51.9%. Pennsylvania, in their 20 electoral votes, has Donald Trump up at 50.9%. Now, another thing we need to remember is in early voting, the number of ballots that had come in for uh, Democrats in Pennsylvania was ridiculously huge. That's something else I also want to mention. I don't know if those numbers, the numbers that hard numbers that they knew were going out and coming in, irrespective of who they actually voted for on the ballot, just the number of Republican or Democrat ballots that have been returned, if they're being counted here. I don't believe they are, but that can make a really big difference in this. And Texas and Texas's 38 electoral votes with 69% reporting has President Trump up 50.8% in the um, early polls. And Wisconsin has Donald Trump at 51.3% with 38% of the precincts reporting. Now, some of these states that have been called already, District of Columbia's three electoral votes has gone to Joe Biden in pretty much a landslide. 92% to Joe Biden. Maryland was pretty big also at 72% for Joe Biden. Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, they're calling it for Joe Biden, but he had, according to the numbers, Joe Biden has 40, uh, darn it, only has 48% of the vote, or 44.8 to Donald Trump's 53.2, but they're calling it for Rhode Island, but Rhode Island is calling it for Joe Biden. So I don't know about that. Joe Biden has taken Massachusetts very handily. New Hampshire has gone to Joe Biden as well, and Vermont. All these are huge, huge, except for, like I said, Rhode Island. All of those are huge numbers, pretty huge numbers for Joe Biden not only in total vote count, but the actual percentage in which he won by. Maine is reported to be going for Donald Trump at 51.3%. It's um it's it's uh it's interesting that some of these states are so close together. I've already talked about Pennsylvania, North Carolina. South Carolina went for Donald Trump. Alabama, um, New Mexico went for Joe Biden pretty solidly. He won there by over 55,000 votes as of right now. That's only 49%. That's only 49% of precincts reporting, and so are a lot of these other ones. In all honesty, the Maryland vote's only 20%. Delaware's 87, so that is what it is. Connecticut's only at 22%. Um, Rhode Island is at 33%. Massachusetts at 37. New Hampshire at 29. Vermont's pretty solid at 83. Maine is only 13%, and Donald Trump is up there. Let's see what's going on out west. Joe Biden is going for Montana is going with 17% is going blue with 57.7% of votes going for Joe Biden. Arizona looks like it's swinging Biden as well, and that is with 71% of the votes being of the precincts reporting. So some of these are pretty well done. Like I said, New Mexico is only 49%. Colorado is going to Joe Biden right now. 76% of precincts reporting, and Joe Biden is 57.2% of the votes. Iowa with 14% has gone to Joe Biden. These, and like I said, a lot of these are still early yet. What I don't understand is how they can call some of these states the way they are when Joe Biden is actually receiving fewer votes, a much lesser percentage of votes. So few votes going in or being in, and making some pretty bold claims there. Let's see. Um, let's see what's going on. A lot of the mainstream media, you know where they're going to call. The Associated, or not the Associated Press. Who is this? This is the Washington Post. They have a much different view. They are not calling much of anything yet. Biden with 94 electoral votes, as they say, and Trump with 72. 50.7% of the votes to Donald Trump, so more than half to Donald Trump, and it shows Donald Trump leading by a fairly large margin. So I'm not entirely sure how things are going to swing out in some of these places, but it is quite. Let's see. It's quite a race. These guys are actually being fairly close together. Wasn't expecting it to actually be this close. In all honesty, I was expecting Trump to kind of run away with it a little bit, but that's just my own personal bias. Not that it's should go one way or the other. I just, in some of the things that I had seen, I thought that Donald Trump would actually be performing much better with all the unrest and all the. I mean, he is a much more charismatic, vibrant, energetic candidate than Joe Biden. So I thought that would actually generate some some extra enthusiasm for him. It's surprising that it is not showing up that way, though. At least to me. Um, let's go. Let's check out. Let's go over to let's go over to the Daily Wire, which is a um, not a mainstream media source at all, uh, and they are more. What's the word I'm looking for here? They are more right leaning, more conservative in their outlook and their views and their predictions and all that type of stuff. They're just more Republicans there, which means a lot to which means a lot from the point of view and the perspective. So we can take a uh, multiple views, views from the left, views from the right. Let's see the Blaze. Let's check out the Blaze and see what the Blaze is showing, because the Daily Wire shows Joe Biden looks like he is 131 to 98. Um, a few they have a little bit different look on their cover on their map coverage. We'll talk a little bit more about um, uh, the other things, whether how the Senate and how the House may turn in this election cycle. That's actually very important with the election is how the is how what kind of legislature is our executive going to be working with. If Donald Trump is elected and we have a blue dominated House and Senate and a Democrat dominated House and Senate with you know no partisanship, and it's all very much Democrats versus Republicans total. It will be a very, very difficult um, time for whoever's, for Donald Trump should he get reelected. But by that same token, if it is predominantly Republican, Joe Biden will have a very hard time. And should Joe Biden get reelected, and it gets much easier for both if they are working within their party, controlling these houses, as we saw just a couple of weeks ago with the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett in the uh, yeah, I just totally blanked on the U.S. Supreme Court, on the free seat on the U.S. Supreme Court that was formerly held by the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Um, since he controlled the Senate, he was able to get the the nomination pushed through and passed uh, before the elections, whereas Barack Obama, who had a similar situation in 2016, just a few weeks or a couple of months before the election, could not get it through. But that is also because the Democrats did not control the Senate to actually get that nominated. See, that makes it having control over houses of the two houses of uh, what are those of the legislature of the legislative branch makes a very, very big difference to the president and when he's trying to get things passed, get things done, because at least a majority in either house to get things to work the way that the president may want. Um, it was much easier and much nicer when it took more than just a simple majority. And in a lot of things, it took like 66 or 76% of the uh, representatives in either house to make a difference. So it makes it better for the um, incumbent, for the president to work when he to get things done when he has the the assistance, I guess, of the the other branches. The whether right now Donald Trump and the Republicans, conservatives, control the judicial branch with a 6-3 majority, essentially actually a 5-4 majority, because one of the conservative judges has been voting more liberal, has been voting more along the lines of the Democrats. So that could have, so having Amy Coney Barrett in there and Donald Trump getting that um, third justice into the House of Representatives made a huge, huge difference. Especially if this ends up coming down to a contested election. Oh, excuse me. And the president and Donald Trump decides to contest it and have a have it go to the Supreme Court. Um, there are a number of things. If a vote in a state, if a state is decided by 1% or less, there is an automatic recount. And I think it's in 24 or 20, a fair number of states, a candidate can request a recount just because. And with everything that has happened this year, with 2020 being what it has been, it makes a different. It makes a difference for um, for this election, and it makes it much more. I don't know how to say this. It makes it much less clear, I guess would be a better way to put it, than and more anything. It makes it less clear, much more contentious and less clear. Um, with Donald Trump and the rhetoric that he's been spitting out over the last several months about mail-in voting and increased voter fraud, and the Democrats saying, and there is no such thing as voter fraud, it makes it very important that the Democrats no longer have control of the judicial branch. I mean, in a perfect world, and were we living in a perfect world, uh, it would make huge differences to be, um, or let me restart that. if we were living in a perfect world, in a perfect country where everything worked out the way that we expect it to, and people held on to their principles and did not align with party, it would be a huge difference than having to force or having to rush a appointee into the seat um, that was vacated on the Supreme Court, because everybody would understand that it's about the law. It's about what's legal, what's not, what's constitutional, or not. Rephrase that also. It's not necessarily legal, but constitutional. The constitutionality of whatever it is. Um, People seem to forget, us people seem to forget that we are governed by a set of laws, and the Constitution is the law of the land. The Constitution has not been suspended, as much as either party has attempted to subvert their connection to the Constitution, change the laws, change the Constitution, change the rules of the game to, for lack of a better way to put it, they're playing Calvin ball, and trying to make it fit into their desired worldview so that they can have their outcome, so that they can get their um, opinions, their points of view, their it's late. I should not be doing this. Get their point and get their level of control. That's really what it is. Politics in this country, in the United States, I don't feel, or I don't believe, that our founding fathers ever intended politics to be a lifetime career choice. And the life expectancy in the late 1700s was, without question, much shorter than what our life expectancy is today. So it makes for a much different landscape. Back then, most people were passed away by the time they were in their mid 50s, from disease or injury or illness. And if they weren't passing away, they weren't able to continue with their duties. And as we've advanced, you've got people like Joe Biden, like Nancy Pelosi, like Donald Trump, who have pushed the envelope of, 60, 70, 80 years old and still being able to perform at a certain level. Whether it is perform well at that certain level is irrelevant. The fact is they're performing at a certain level. Donald Trump is 72 years old and still runs multiple businesses. He goes 14, 15, 16 hours a day and goes hard 14, 15, 16 hours a day. Joe Biden is 77 years old, has been in politics for 47 or 48 years, and I don't think that there's anybody in the past who's ever been a vice president and is still alive that would say that being a vice president is easy. I mean, the vice presidency is, always has been a consolation prize. But, I mean, you still have a lot of duties. You still have a lot of expectations. And you still have to be aware and around and there. So it's just as tiring and just as taxing as being a president. I mean, the decisions don't fall on your head, which is why, I think at least, why the vice president doesn't seem to age nearly as much over the 4 or 8 years that a president is in office as the president seems to. Joe Biden at 77 is still cognizant enough to attempt to make a run at the presidency. Now, I think he has been poorly chosen. In all honesty, I think that um, he is a puppet candidate, um, and he has over the last several months um, fallen into the fallen to the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. He's really giving into all their rhetoric and their demands and their attitudes, which I think will be um, ultimately bad for the party, maybe for the country. I don't know. Again, but that also depends on what happens with the House and the Senate and what is going on there. Right now, according to uh, the Washington Post, who is showing up their Senate seats, the Senate race across the country, it looks like the Democrats have picked up one as of right now, and the Republicans have lost one. So um, I'm not entirely sure how many seats were up for grabs this year in for the Senate, seeing as how they have a little bit longer shelf life. They spend 6 years in office between elections, as opposed to the 4 years for a president or 2 years for the representatives in the House. Um, but I mean, if it's a toss up there, who could be going, because there are 35 seats up for election this year. I just found that. Um, and it looks like it looks really close as far as who can get it. I mean, 50 seats is the majority, and that's what they need. And if the Republicans don't lose any more, they will end up having the majority. But I don't think they can lose anymore. I think they had 52 coming into the election, and and if they can keep 51, they will be uh, still in control, and Mitch McConnell will still be Senate Majority Leader. And by the way, he apparently won his re-election in Kentucky for the Senate seat by a fairly wide margin. And it doesn't surprise me, in all honesty, though. It's Kentucky, and Kentucky is, you know, for lack of a better way to put it, they're a bunch of rednecks. They like their guns, they like their beer, they like to, um, they're they like what they like they have they're just not very progressive, I guess, is the way that I want to try to put this, which seems to be the way that um, they are leaning. Um, the Democratic Party, I mean, and they don't want these uh, people in some of these southern states, most of whom are red: Kentucky, West Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Atlanta, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas. I don't know if you could really consider Kansas a southern state, and Oklahoma, Texas. I think those would be more considered western states, with Arkansas, Louisiana. They might be considered southern states. Um, but it is. See, I don't know. Wyoming has three. Montana has three. Hmm. See, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't really start paying attention to what was going on in the political arena until this year. In all honesty, I've only been really paying attention since January, maybe um, maybe November last year is when I really started getting interested, started becoming interested in the political arena. Um, and if you've listened to any of the podcasts that we actually have here at Aztec Multimedia, they talk an awful lot about the culture war and the progressives, the SJWs, uh, the cancel culture and all that. And I started getting to the point of, why is all this happening? Why do we have all these things in this country? Why is America becoming this? This isn't what Americans are supposed to be. That's never what I thought Americans are supposed to be, at least. And I've realized that the media, the mainstream media, we're talking about your CNNs, your MSNBCs, Fox News, are very polarizing. They'll have you believe that it's um, the online world, that it's YouTube, that it's places like the Daily Wire and all that's radicalizing, or that is um, polarizing in culture. But no, it is the mainstream media telling, because the mainstream media has become less of a journalist and less of a uh, reporting the news and being honest and true and giving people what is going on in the world, without bias or with very little bias. Because when I was a kid, the media was there to inform and to enlighten. And now it's like the media is there in an attempt to tell you what to think, to make you think the way that they do. Um, and media, I will admit, the media has always needed to be a little bit liberal, at the very least, a little bit liberal, um, because of their duty the um, to the country, to the culture. They couldn't be they were not supposed to. They could not sit back and be constrained by the rules. There was freedom of the press for a reason, and the press has taken it upon themselves to abuse their position and take that freedom and laud it over other people in an effort to uh, convince them that the of the way that you are supposed to think. Um, One thing that I've said over for years, up into being a former serviceman myself, is days like Memorial Day, days like uh, Veterans Day, um, where we recognize people who have um, served and giving, not just have given their life, not just died for, but have actually given up a portion of their life in some form of service. And they need to be recognized, not just the military members, but police officers, firefighters, doctors, nurses. They need to be recognized along with the military members for the sacrifices that they make. They are their duty, their jobs are just as important, to be recognized as the military's is. And up until the last few years, I want to believe that when I was a kid, you had that old guard of classic media journalists, of reporters, of and who they sacrificed too. They gave up all kinds of things to have their voice, their opinion, their points of view made into the world. You know, given their, I shouldn't really say their points of view, but yes, their points of view as well. But to tell you without bias, without saying person A is bad because he is A, B, and C, and person B is good because I said so. They would tell you that person A has these character traits, these character flaws, these are his positions, these are his standards. Person B, these are his, and with person B, do the same thing, mirror image of across the board, and it was balanced within the media at least. And it is a sad, sad state of affairs in today's society when we don't get that from our leadership, or not our leadership, but yeah, well, I guess they are leaders also in after a fashion. But not just, I mean, let's face it, Donald Trump is an asshole. He is he's mean. He's rude. He is not particularly presidential, in all honesty. Which when, as much as I don't like Mike Pence, I think Mike Pence is not a good human being at all. But Mike Pence is very, very political, very responsible, very level-headed. I thought that Mike Pence would level out Donald Trump, and he has. He has up until a point when you got him together. You saw that in the debates this year. How much more astute, how much more to the point he was that Mike Pence was when he was debating Kamala Harris than Donald Trump was during the first debate with Joe Biden. Donald Trump was just bad with Joe Biden. That was no, not to take anything one side or the other here. Joe Biden was horrible also. Joe Biden tried to get down in the muck and the mud and be like Trump, whereas if he had been the person he was 5 years or 8 years before in the presidential debates with Paul Ryan, is that who ran with whoever ran with Romney, when he did those debates, or when he was debating Sarah Palin, he was a much different animal back then. And if he'd have tried to keep that demeanor, I think he would have been declared, he would have been, in everybody's eyes, not just the media's eyes, but in everybody's eyes, he would have been the hands-down winner of that first debate. Now it's up for grabs, to say who won that first debate. I do think it was Trump, and I think it was Trump because he pulled Biden down to him. He pulled Biden down to his level. He was able to get Biden to say, shut up, and called him a clown, and, just was doing what Trump does. And I think it made Biden look bad. I mean, you expect that from Donald Trump. But to see Joe Biden do it, who had spent 8 years with Barack Obama, who, arguably is one of the most loved presidents in the history of the United States. I mean, like up there with Kennedy and Lincoln type of loved. So it was disturbing, to say the least, that Joe Biden was so willing to get down into mud and muck and crap with Donald Trump at the early stages of the what are those called? Debates. Now, again, this has been a messed up year. The entire cycle, this entire election cycle has been hyper accelerated because of the COVID 19 and all the aspects to go along with that, um, making the election cycle very truncated. There was one of the debates between Biden and Trump had to be eliminated entirely because Donald Trump had uh, gotten sick uh, with the COVID, which that's an entirely different show that we're going to talk about. We'll talk about COVID like entirely. If you listen to the Kitchen Conversation podcast, we talk about it a lot, and we make a distinct side in this. Crash and Jay are of similar mind when it comes to this. Bubba Jay's wife, GJ, not so much. But she works in a setting where she has a little bit different view, and you know, we can see her points, but doesn't mean her points of view are definitively correct. You know, they are points of view. But um, I don't think that it is. I don't think it's as deep as they are wanting us to believe, in all honesty. All right, so let's do some updates on how the election is looking right now. According to the Associated Press, they have Donald Trump at 108 with Joe Biden still sitting at 131. See if anything has really changed. Nothing's really changed. The swing states that we talk about: Wisconsin, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Carolina, New Hampshire, all those that I just ran off earlier when we first started, they pretty much are sitting the same. Let's see. Michigan is up to 40% reporting. Iowa's up to 51% reporting, and Joe Biden has a very solid lead in Iowa, according to the Associated Press and the reporting precincts at this time. I mean, this is all subject to change still. So let's see if anything has really changed. They're still calling Rhode Island for Joe Biden, and 38% are reporting. So I don't think that's changed a whole lot. Maine is still being called for Donald Trump, and only 22% reporting. I don't think that is, in my opinion, and this is solely my opinion, I don't think it's right that they are leaning one way or the other when there are such a few percentage of votes that have been pulled in. But let's take a look at some of these other locations, like the Washington Post. I'm sorry, not the New York Post. The Washington Post. According to their projections, Donald Trump will have the votes in the Electoral College, but not by much. Probably it looks right now he's sitting at 108 to Joe Biden's 114, with some states definitively declared, but we still have many more states to go. California isn't even close to reporting yet. I don't even think their polls have actually closed. I think they will be closing in about 5 minutes, so we'll start getting reporting from the Pacific time zone. California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Alaska, and Hawaii. We might take a few more hours to get Hawaii, but Hawaii is what, 4 electoral votes and Alaska is 3. So, but based on what they're seeing with the, they have now, the Washington Post has Rhode Island going to Donald Trump and the 4 electoral votes, with 51% of the vote to Joe Biden's 47.2. This is a big difference. I mean, this isn't. I wouldn't say it's important, but it's definitely a difference that we're seeing between the two reporting um, aspects here. Let's see where we are with uh, the House and the Senate. Right now, according to uh, the Washington Post, with 35 seats up for uh, or no, wait. Sorry. I've got this completely wrong. I'm completely wrong on this when I said it earlier. There are 35 Democratic seats not up for election and 30 seats from the Republican side of the aisle not up for election. So that would mean that is 65, which means that's 35 seats that are up for reelection in the Senate. And um, right now, according to the Washington Post, uh, nothing has changed. Oh, wait. Yes, it has. I take that back. The Democrats have picked up one seat, and the Republicans have lost one seat. And in real time, it just changed for me. Just changed, and they are balanced. 38, 40. There are 40 Democrats that have been elected that are sitting in there right now, and 38 Republicans. But again, we still have a long night ahead of us. In the House, it looks like there are some seats that are turning Republican in the House. To have a majority in the House of Representatives, you have to have, I think it's 218 seats. Um, either Democrat or for one side of either Democrat or Republican. You have to have 218 to have a majority. I think it's 218. Don't according to this, it is 218. And it makes for a really interesting time. That some of the it looks like there are some what they would consider strong Democrat seats that have gone Republican. So I'm not entirely sure how to read all this. Like I said, I'll need to spend more time learning what all this stuff means, how to read it, what it actually says, one way or the other. For the next round of elections in 2 years, when we're talking about the House of Representatives again, it will be see, that's what happened last time with in 2018 was the Republicans won everything in 2016. They took the House, they took the Senate, they took the presidency, obviously, and then in 2018 they lost a lot of ground in the House to Democrats, and they need to gain that back if they want to try to get their legislation passed. That has been the biggest hang-up this year, really, is the fact that you have such a deeply divided House of Representatives, and political points of view are so far apart. But right now, the Republicans have 130 representatives seated, and the Democrats have 93, with still very, very, very many seats left to call. So, it's still early. Like I said, it's still early, and in all honesty, we may not know everything for certain until Thursday or Friday. In all honesty, it is a big question mark, because this year with all the and I've said it probably 1,000 times, and I know I've said it at least twice already tonight. The mail-in ballots, they are delaying counting those. I think they should have cracked them open and started counting them first thing this morning. And had hired hired people specifically to do that job within the state electorate. to make sure that those got counted, and they were counted today. Uh, I mean, or by tomorrow at the latest. But you do have some states that say they won't have definitive answers till Friday, and I think they don't have to have anything in until the 20th of November. And then there's roughly 30 days to contest the election and the standings and all that the either party has to go. And just here live, as I'm watching these tickers, Donald Trump has another state has been called for the Republican incumbent, and Donald Trump is now confirmed at 114 electoral votes, as is Joe Biden, which makes it big, and we're going to start getting the East Coast or the West Coast in now. California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, all those states out there are going to start posting their results here very shortly. Right now, you have that, I guess you could call it a blue wall with Washington, Oregon, California. Nevada, I think, is pretty blue also. So it makes for, it makes for a lot of votes that will go toward Biden for this election. Can't determine 100% which way it will go, but you see another thing here between the Google Associated Press results and the Washington Post results. If you look at Montana, they're opposite. According to the Washington Post, it says Joe Biden has 50.8% of the votes in Montana. That's 55,000 votes to Trump's 51,000 votes. And if you look at the Google Associated Press, Donald Trump is up with 50.2% and 92,000 votes to Biden's 87,000 votes. So these are not necessarily what's the word I'm looking for here? Do not coincide 100%. They do seem to have quite different numbers in some cases, at the very least. Let's look at some of the swing states again. We have some more coming in. Iowa, I mean, they're all pretty much the same. They're all pretty much lining out the same way. Nothing's changed a lot. Who else? Ohio with 90%. North Carolina is at 94%. And Florida's at 97%. And they are all, very solidly in the Donald Trump side of things. They're all sitting at 50 at a 3 to see. Ohio is Trump has an 8-point lead, 8 percentage point lead, roughly. He has a 4 percentage point lead in Wisconsin, which is the wrong one. I shouldn't have been looking at. That's only 57%, not 97%, like I read. My eyes are going. Florida has 97%, and Donald Trump has that lead. It's he has 3. It looks like 3.5%, maybe 4.5%. 8, 9, 0, 1, 4.5% lead. And North Carolina, he has a narrow margin. It's just over 2, not quite 2.5. So it's almost 2.5 point lead in North Carolina. And going the other way, Joe Biden is with Arizona, Iowa, and New Hampshire. Joe Biden is legging it out. In New Hampshire, he has an 8.5%. He has 8.5% on him in New Hampshire. 7.5%, almost 7.5% on him in Iowa, and Biden is also up by almost 9% in Arizona. And now we still only have uh, 50%, New Hampshire at 50, Iowa at 59, and Arizona at 73% reporting precincts. And so it's not necessarily over in those states either. I mean, you still because Trump is not count wise that far behind. He's 65, looks like 65,000 votes back in Iowa. It looks like he is 200,000 votes back in Arizona. Arizona is probably definitively going to go for Joe Biden. And 50,000 votes in New Hampshire, all of which could, come down to, if they stay this close, could all come down to mail-in voting, in all honesty. And I don't know how many votes were mailed in these states, but and that's for all these states, in all honesty, depending on how many votes. But it totally depends on how many votes are outstanding. Like in Michigan right now with 43%, Donald Trump is up by 260, and 260,200 electoral votes, 255,200 electoral votes. And if there's 256,000 mail-in ballots, that could swing the entire election there at this stage. Maybe when we get closer, maybe Trump has a wider margin at that point, but it's not. None of these, as they stand right now, are really out of the realm of possibility, out of the scope of possibility of being swung by the mail-in voting this year, either direction. So Daily Wire still has Joe Biden at 131 electoral votes with Donald Trump at 98. Let's see if let's refresh that, see if it's changed at all. Yes, it has. Donald Trump has 108. He's picked up 10 electoral votes, according to the Daily Wire. And the Washington Post now has Joe Biden sitting at 188 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 114. Yet on their little projection slider thing here at the top, Donald Trump is still projected to win in the Electoral College with, it looks like, probably 295 electoral votes. The Senate is narrowing. The Democrats have picked up one more seat. They are at 41 to the Republicans' 38. That is probably a seat that was already a Democrat seat. Then it just didn't flip. The House of Representatives have the Republicans at 135 seats to the Democrats 93. And then we're on our states out west. Let's see, do we have any numbers? 3% of the voting in California, and Joe Biden is out to a big lead off the barrelhead at 414,000 votes. That's 75, more than 75, almost 76% of the votes are going for Joe Biden in California at this stage. Now, granted, like I said, it's only 3%. And in Oregon, with 56% of the precincts, Joe Biden has more than, or almost doubled, 895,000, 64% of the votes, and in Oregon. Washington is not reporting yet. Donald Trump has Idaho right now, or they're calling it for Donald Trump, yet only 25% is in. 25% of the votes are in, and Donald Trump only has 45.4 of them to Joe Biden's 52. So that makes I don't understand why they're doing that in some places. Let's see where some of these other states here in the East, District of Columbia, of course, it's going to go Biden. Maryland hasn't changed. Only 21% reporting, and Joe Biden sitting at 443,000 votes, 71% still. New Jersey still at 60%. Connecticut, Rhode Island with 48% in now. They're calling it, the Associated Press is calling it for Joe Biden at 49.4%. Let's see what they say here. And the Washington, oh, no, wait, wrong one. Sorry, let's go up. Presidential race. Yeah, Rhode Island is now looking like Joe Biden at the Washington Post's site too. And the Daily Wire isn't nearly as interactive as some of these. The Daily Wire's rep is not nearly as interactive as some of these other places. So this is one of my, where are we at? My local election has apparently been called, and our governor has been reelected, unfortunately. Not real. He was. I'm not real crazy about how he is handling things with the state and how we are reacting with the coronavirus. So it is not something I'm particularly happy to see, in all honesty. That he was reelected. Like I said, I wasn't really keen on the guy, to have truth be told. I didn't like his governor, or the guy who was governor before he became governor either. So let's not, be anything, let's not sugarcoat it. I did not like he was lieutenant governor at the time, and I did not like the guy who was governor. I do not like the guy who is now governor. I think he is moderately better than the previous governor, but only moderately. The last governor we had was he wanted to play politics. To not put too fine a point on it, he has his eye on the White House, plain and simple. Looking at a few other polls, and again, these are mainstream media sites, by and large, for the most part. Cancel that one because I didn't like that one. But CNN has Joe Biden at 192, Trump at 108, with the Eastern Seaboard pretty much the same. They do have Washington reporting some votes right now, and they're calling it, the projected winner is Joe Biden, but Donald Trump has 67% of the votes. Now, in all honesty, that could be that is a very small sampling size. That is only 3,400, almost 3,500 votes total in the state of Washington reported so far. So that is a very, very small number. Nevada has, according to these guys, Nevada has not put anything up near there. Let's head over to Washington. Yeah, everything's still pretty much the same. Um, I really wish that I had taken the time to go online and call out some things. Let's see what we have here. Um, this is the Senate races across the country. Uh, Georgia had a special election, and it looks like that one's too close to call. Might swing Democrat in all honesty, uh, which is surprising. Um, However, that was the special election, and the uh, Republican incumbent there, I think he's the incumbent, but the Republican has won in Georgia. He's retained his Georgia seat. Lindsey Graham still has South Carolina. Mitch McConnell with 58% or 15, just over 58% of precincts reporting, uh, and over 1.1 million votes to Amy McGrath's 700,000. Yeah, Mitch McConnell took that one. Another Republican has taken West Virginia. Bill Haggerty, another Republican in Tennessee. Tommy Tuberville in Alabama. Cindy Hyde Smith, there we go. Another Republican in. Now these are these are still not fully reported yet. Uh, let's see who's winning in the House. Rokana. There we go. Zoom in here. That's interesting. Eric Swalwell. Ooh. See, they are not reporting much in the way of. Where's Nancy Pelosi? I'm looking for Nancy Pelosi, but California's 8th district is in very early reporting. It looks like they're the only ones reporting thus far on the House races. Christine Busper is projected to win this one. Right now, she has 58% of the vote, but again, that's still very early. Only 2% of precincts reporting. You see these numbers that we're getting from these western states are very small sample sizes. It looks like in Oregon you have 3 small counties, which is basically Seattle suburbs, reporting in 4. It looks actually like 4 small districts, small yet influential districts in Oregon, and 2 districts in Washington. But you only got one of the 2 districts in Idaho. See, it's like I said, I've only been really paying attention to politics for a little over this year, this calendar year. So, I don't believe Rainwater didn't get more votes, in all honesty. Excuse me. But North Carolina has a blue, has gone blue, and it comes to their governor. There is still a Democrat. He is the incumbent. West Virginia, So incumbents are winning a lot of places. It looks like not very many. It's almost like they came to the realization the devil you know. Right now, I don't know if I like that idea because I don't like the devil in my state. Truth be told. Um, but let's see, where are we here? CNN. Nothing has really changed. Uh, you see, right now you can pretty much guarantee. I would love to see it happen. It won't happen because the population centers in California are just too strong and too blue, too much Democrat influence, and so you can almost guarantee that California is going to be um, go to Biden in this election, just like it went to Hillary Clinton in the last one. Um, doesn't look like. Uh, let's go back to the Daily Wire. See if the Daily Wire's updated anything. Yes, they have. Your House seats looks like they've picked up a few more numbers, and 129 members of the House are now Republican, with 97 of them remaining Democrat. And you have a 44 to 43 lead for the Democrats in the Senate as it stands. Um, so that's pretty much the way it stands. That's pretty much the way it is. They do say that Joe Biden has 209 electoral votes to Trump's 147. Um, so let's see, what do we got here? The only battleground state we really need to keep watching is, sorry, well, none of the battleground states really, none of the swing states we really need to watch anymore. They're pretty much solidified um, in their numbers. They are, the more that are reporting in, the more that they are staying pretty much the same. You're not having a big swing here at the end. Like last year, or in 2016, you saw a huge swing in late reporting for Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton lost a lot of ground against Donald Trump. So everywhere, pretty much, so, but right now it looks like if it's been saying that like North Carolina now has 94% reporting, and they're still up. They're still the same percentage away. So, um, I don't know if this is a time if we can really sit here and say definitively that it looks like Donald Trump will be reelected based on the trends. I'm not saying based on the electoral, based on what we're actually seeing, but based on the trends. The fact that he's pretty much tracking the same way that he did, or the same way that the votes aren't fluctuating. Yeah, I mean, they're not swinging from one candidate to the other. You're not having a huge surge for Biden, then a huge surge for Trump, where they're racing. It's pretty much, if Biden gets 2 votes, Trump gets 1 vote. And it looks more like for every 5 Biden gets, Trump gets 4. They're pretty much staying neck and neck. In Arizona, it's 53.6% for Biden, 45.1% for Donald Trump. But they're still at about a little more than 200,000 votes separating them. I mean, it's still possible. I guess you can swing that with mail-in ballots, but or the 400,000 in Florida. I mean, I'm assuming that the 400,000 in Florida can be very easily swung by by mail-in ballots if they are, depending on how many mail-in ballots have actually been turned in Florida. Uh, and I don't have that particular thing pulled up, that particular number pulled up. Although I do believe that um, it was a better than fair number. The thing is, even from what I remember seeing earlier in the week, the Florida numbers were actually tracking Republican on the mail-in votes, on the mail-in ballots. So, there is that. Let's see. But yeah, pretty much they're all pretty much staying the same. I think Iowa swung a few times between Trump and Biden, but they're now at 74% with Donald Trump. I mean, very narrow lead in Iowa. So that just a few thousand. We're not even talking tens of thousands. Just a few thousand, like 6,100 maybe votes. Now he's got a 10,600 vote lead with 75% of the votes coming in. That just updated in real time. Michigan, he's still up by over 250,000 votes. So, I mean, these numbers look like they're going to be, they're pretty solid as where they're sitting right now. When it's all said and done, there's no way to really tell at this point in time. I mean, the mail-in ballots are such key this year because there were so many more than there typically are. I mean, we've always had mail-in voting, but this year because of the coronavirus, because of COVID-19, there was a record number, according to all the mainstream media, record number of mail-in votes this year. So, I mean, that could be a distinctly pivotal point when it comes to this election. Seeing who actually wins. And like I said, there were some of these swing states when I was watching CNN earlier this afternoon. Not that I particularly care about CNN, not that I like CNN, not that I trust CNN at all. But they were saying that their commentators, I don't even like calling them reporters, but their commentators were saying that there are more than a few states that are saying that they won't have a few of the swing states, the battlegrounds, that will not have their their votes counted until Friday, at the latest. That's one thing. At the latest, we're looking at Friday right now. Might not be till might get them done tomorrow, might get them done Thursday, more early Thursday, but we're looking at Friday for certain. Yep. These are everything is pretty much staying the same. I mean, everything as you go up. According to the Daily Wire, Donald Trump now has 147. He's gained a few more votes, but Joe Biden is still at 209. And I'm wondering if that is because of. No, I don't want to go to this one. See, which one do I want to go to? This is the one I wanted to go to, I think. Oh, no. No. Well. The heck with it. Don't like CNN anyway. I just don't trust CNN anymore. In all honesty, I don't like their reporting. I don't think they report in good faith. I think everything they do is very biased and very much. They've become more activistic. They are more activist than reporter now. Definitively not journalists over there at CNN. So, I have my biases. I'm not going to lie. I do have biases. But according to according to the Washington Post, uh, really, uh, it still projects that Donald Trump will probably win the presidency. Joe Biden has 188 votes over there. Um, Nothing is moving. We probably won't actually hear anything else for another hour or so as far as uh, reporting. Um, Not surprising. Reporting precincts, but Washington is now up to 58% reporting, and Joe Biden has 60% of the vote. Um, Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Oh, no results from Alaska and Hawaii yet. Not a surprise. Let's swing this. Oh man. Maybe I should just sat back and watched everybody else and see what they had to say, and then just talk about it tomorrow, and then have the guys talk about it tomorrow on the Kitchen Conversations podcast, which we'll be recording tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully, be up by Friday. Hopefully, be up on Thursday, but it's Friday at the latest. Yep. Nope. Not a whole lot's changing right now. But again, we're still in relatively early stages of what's funny right now in um, Oregon. You have a few districts, apparently very influential districts, that have reported, and they're the only ones that are blue. All the others, most of the state, in all honesty, in all actuality, is red. So most of the state is Republican, and it would be really interesting to see how it turns out. It won't turn out the way that if it won't turn out the way that the Republicans won. You're not going to get a big swing for Trump, I don't think, in Oregon. You probably won't in. But again, that's all. Again, and it's the same thing in Washington State. You have a few of the metropolitan centers that are reporting Democrat and have Joe Biden winning, when the vast majority of the state is Republican. So let's see what's going on in Cal. Let's take a look at Cali. California, let's see, but California, it's the same thing. All the major urban centers, the coastal regions, Los Angeles, son of a buck, Los Angeles, San Diego, Fresno, San Francisco, Sacramento, and their metropolitan areas, they're all voting Democrat. The smaller precincts, you have a few areas voting leaning Trump. They're not these aren't called yet. You have a couple of them that have been called. One, actually, it looks like, that has been called in California. And Montana, you have a couple of large, a few of them. Not a whole lot of reporting yet, in that particular uh, state. Let's see what's Maine looking. They now have Maine going to Joe Biden, 52%, 210,000 to 181,000, with 50% reporting. That's still very open. I mean, even before we have to start thinking about mail-in ballots, it's it's in truth, I'm just gonna hang out, sit around. I'm still wanting to see. I just want to see who is the projected winner. Like I said, you have Donald Trump, according to the Washington Post, is projected to have over 270 votes based on how places are leaning. Um, he probably, I mean, it looks like it's 270. Texas is 38. Texas is 38. Virginia's 13. So it looks like Virginia, which I thought they called Virginia for Joe Biden early today. Um, so you have 64% of the vote in Virginia, and it says Donald Trump is up by just a little over 2%. So that could be, that just became a swing state for. Oh no, it's always been a swing state. Which one am I thinking about? South Carolina, North Carolina? No, it's swing state. Georgia, South Carolina? No, I'm an idiot. I'm just telling you. Again, like I said, I just really started learning these. Started getting into politics, trying to understand politics, and why things work the way they do, or why things go the way they go. Up until now, it was just, yeah, okay, there's a president, though. There's a president to elect. My vote doesn't matter. And then in 2016, we saw that our votes do matter. So many of the states that Trump actually won in 2018 or 2016 were won by relatively small margins. Thousands or tens of thousands of votes, and even though Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, it wasn't by a large margin. It was only a few million votes, like 1 or 2 million votes. Which, when you have 120, I think it was 125,000 total votes cast in 2016. 1 or 2 million is not that many, and especially when they're coming from two states, the majority of which are coming from two states, California and New York. But it's like the Electoral College makes it's the balancing act. The Electoral College is a balancing act. The Electoral College is based on the number of representatives and senators, the amount of representation of the people in Congress. So so the to call a presidential race, to have to use the Electoral College, is enforcing the will of the people, instead of going with popular vote, in which case every election would be determined between California and New York. Wherever they went is where the president would go. Who that's who would win the presidency, is whoever those two states voted for every year, every election. So for the flyover states, these these smaller states that have two or three or uh, four representatives and four congressmen, um, that's where it balances. It makes it so that the smaller states like uh, Alaska with its three, Montana with its three, um, Wyoming with its three, South Dakota, North Dakota, all these smaller states, as far as numbers go, because you have small states like Massachusetts and landmass that have 11 electoral votes, and DC they've only got three, but I mean, DC is like 12 square miles, maybe, and that's a bit of exaggeration, but it's a pocket of it. It's not even a state; it's a pocket of it. It's a large city. Maryland, a relatively small, another relatively small state with 10. Um, New Jersey, small state with 14. Connecticut with 7. It it takes these states where there is a large concentration of people who typically vote one way, meaning Democrat or Republican. Depending, because I think there are a couple times that all states went for. I think it was Reagan's second term was a landslide victory with him getting 49 of 50 states, and Trump's or not Trump, God, somebody who was actually far worse than Trump ultimately, Richard Nixon had received 49 of the 50 states in the Electoral College. But it takes these smaller states that don't have a huge population to represent their popular vote overall within the country. It makes them equal. It puts them on equal footing. Now, California has 50 electoral votes, 55 electoral votes, and it is one of the most populous states in the country. New York's the same way. With they have 29 electoral votes. Florida has 29 electoral votes, and Texas has 38. Huge populations there, and if you were to put the what it looks like there's 12 or 13 million voters in Texas. That 12 or 13 million voters who very, very regularly vote Republican could never compare with California, New York. There's just too many people. California, New York, New York City alone has 10 million people in it, I think. And I think the greater metroplex area there, that is the Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, that entire eastern or western seaboard there, they have God knows how many, 70, 80 million votes probably between the four major cities that are around there. So to call the and I'm not gonna lie. In the past, I've done it too. I have been the guy who said, "No, it's not right." The popular vote was won by the other guy. He probably should have been elected. And as I've gotten older, I've understood that how it balances and how it makes those states like North and South Dakota, and gives them something, gives them a fighting chance against the states like California, New York, because it's not based on the 11,000 people that live in North and South Dakota combined. Hyperbole. I know there's many more than that. Who their populist vote cannot compare to the populist's vote in California and or New York, especially the "and" part. So, it is the Electoral College is something I think we need to maintain. It's something we need to stay with and keep more, um, make it more understanding about how it affects and why it affects elections and why it's important to maintain um, its integrity. Um, because then you have swing states don't become are at this point irrelevant at that point, because all you have to do is win California, New York, and then it becomes quite literally whoever's no other state becomes important. You don't have to worry about the uh, blue collar workers in Wisconsin or Michigan or Ohio. You focus on the white collar yuppies and billionaires that run California and New York. And all you have to do is sway them to your side, and you'll win every time. And to make it a um, less of a landslide every term. I mean, can you imagine if the Democrats in California, New York, you know, they all knew that the popular vote's important, and it's the only thing that determines. They turn out every time, all the time, every time. I mean, you're 10 million in New York. You're 10 million people in New York City alone, and let's just say 2/3 of them can actually vote. That are of voting age, and they do, and they all go out and they all vote. You have 15, 16 million, 17 million people in New York voting for Joe Biden. And then you have the 30, 40, 50 million people, however many people live in California, who are of voting age, voting for Joe Biden or voting for your Democratic nominee. No other state matters at that point. No other state matters. Because even if the Republican challenger to a Democrat would never have a chance if we went strictly off the popular vote, because the populace is in 2 states. That's where, and that just makes it, very important to maintain the integrity of the electoral college. And how the electorate is actually going doesn't really matter, in all honesty. If the electorate goes to Congress and says, my state had voted for Joe Biden, but I don't think Joe Biden I don't think Joe Biden actually won, therefore I don't want to vote for him. I'm going to swing my vote for Donald Trump. A state like Minnesota could very easily become, if you start splitting it, and you don't make it so that a state has, and I guess, I don't know, I have to do some research on this, but I don't know that a state has to, that electorates have to vote the way that their state did. This could all be moot by the time this all happens. I think it has to be done by December 20th, is when they actually have to fully report. It could be the entire thing that, they just all walk in there and say, yeah, we're just going to, make sure Joe Biden won. And, to hell with, the population and the popular votes of our states, because that's not how we feel. I think it'd be very, I think after a point it'd be kind of funny to have, Democratic strongholds, the electorate from Illinois, which has, been Democrat for 200 years. That's another state. So many people live in Chicago and they're all Democrats. Swing the election for that state every year, Democrat. But if the electors walked into to Congress and said, "Nah, we're not doing that," Illinois cast its vote for Donald Trump. Excuse me. Or vice versa. Texas. You know, all our people decided we wanted to vote. They wanted to vote for Donald Trump. We don't like Donald Trump. We're going to go ahead and vote for Joe Biden. That's 35 more votes for Biden. Even if Trump, wins by say 50 votes, if a couple of states were to do that, it makes for it makes it even more contentious. And I don't know that there is a law or anything that says that they have to do that. They have to vote the way that their state did. Let's see. Let's take a look at some of these states out west. See how they're looking. In California, 58% of the vote is in. Estimated 58% of the votes are in. Joe Biden, 6,596,000, almost 6.6 million votes. And Donald Trump at just about 2.9. So Joe Biden is running away with California, as we knew he would. Oregon has 86% of the vote in, with 58% of it going to Biden. That's 1.1 million votes for Joe Biden, 760,000 for Trump. So, and then Washington, Joe Biden has 2 million votes to Donald Trump's 1.2. So, Western Seaboard is staying as blue as ever. In Idaho, with 52% of votes being counted, it looks like Donald Trump is winning there by right at 30,000 votes. That's 212,000 to 179,000. Montana, Trump narrowly in the lead, 6,000 there. Nevada's not reporting yet. Donald Trump is winning in Texas too. So let's see. Just need to tap it, doll. When did this message come in? Yeah, I'm checking my phone right now. I got a text message. Came in like an hour ago. Yeah, I'm not going to talk to her now. She can figure it out. I had to. All right, so but yes, this is a wild night. It's been a wild election season. It's been a wild year, truth be told. But this season is this election season with all the trials and tribulations, the arguments, the mudslinging, I guess, across the board from both candidates, and how bad this guy is, how bad that guy is, and in all honesty, my local elections, we had we had a House seat up, and the two people who were running, every few minutes you would see a TV ad for them, and all they did they never told me in those ads what they actually wanted to do. What their positions, what their policies, what their worldview or anything. They never gave me anything when it came to that. All they did was talk about how bad the other person is. And I didn't like that. I don't like that. I understand that you have to put some negative press out there about your opponent. I get that. But to focus on that tells me that you have no real plan. You have no real platform that you're trying to stand on. Your platform is, I'm not the other person, which is really what this entire election cycle has been. even for the presidency. Uh, it is Joe Biden is running on the whole "I'm not Donald Trump" platform, and Donald Trump is running on a "You really think Joe Biden's going to do something for you" platform. Um, damn it. So it just, uh, it's quite distressing, as a person who has become interested in politics and wants to, in trying to help make America a better place. Whether not make America great again. I'm not buying into the rhetoric, but to to help improve the nation at a fundamental level. And while I still do believe that America is the greatest country on the planet, uh, we have issues in this country, and we need solutions to those problems. So quit throwing in my face how bad the other guy is. Tell me what your solution is for uh, economic reform, for uh, your healthcare reform. Donald Trump has been adamant for the last 4 years that he wants to repeal Obamacare. He can't do it, uh, not especially not with a Democratic-run House. Um, but that's been one of his platforms. I want to repeal Obamacare. Well, okay, what do you want to replace it with? As much as I think Obamacare is garbage, and so much of it wasn't something that so much of what was in the bill didn't focus on healthcare and focused almost exclusively on uh, other aspects. Nothing that had to do with the healthcare industry. I mean, it's been 6 years since I read the bill. No, 4, 6, 8, probably 10 years since I skimmed the bill. Um, Literally, it's like, well, okay, headline, each of the bullet points, and you know, what is it that you want to replace it with? Because we do need a comprehensive healthcare system in the United States. I do believe that. I don't think we need 100% free Medicare for all. I don't think that is a viable option. But we need something in the health. We need some sort of viable healthcare program that will end up making it easier and more uh, uh, cost effective for uh, lower middle income families. I mean, you have in the inner cities, you have a lot of poor people who will have to go to whose only recourse is to go to the emergency room every time they get sick. Every time they get sick, they have to go to the emergency room, and it they may have to wait hours on end to get seen, and it becomes a cost because these people also don't have the ability to pay for it, and it becomes a drain on the system, which means the people who do have to pay for it, you know, because they do have insurance, and insurance rates go up because you have a I tapped the mic and I think I lost a piece. Um, but as far as healthcare goes, now that that's where I was talking. Um, uh, okay, I had a bad connection there. I'm sorry. Um, a comp. So many people who don't have health care, who don't have any type of health insurance, who are reliant on the state funded or federally funded uh, healthcare programs, really do become a strain because they can't afford it. And small businesses like ours here at Aztec Multimedia, when as we increase our uh, our employee base, it's going to, we're not going to, we're going to have to end up providing health insurance for the people that we have working here. And, if, you know, God willing, to turn a phrase, we are able to become a company that makes, a fair amount of money as a company, uh, it's going to be, we may not, we can't predict that. We don't know what it's going to be. We don't know how it's going to end up, lining out, truth be told. And it becomes more, um, it becomes more of an issue. And it's something that, especially since, we've tried to start this business, it's becoming something that's more and more in the forefront of my mind. Is how am I going to help take care of these people as a business owner, as a major partner within the business? How are we going to do this? How are we going to help these people? And, take care of our employees and our other partners and whatnot, and help make sure that these people have the things that they need in their lives. So I'm interested in a comprehensive healthcare plan that will make healthcare um, more affordable. God, why can't I think of affordable? I think I'm getting old because I'm having a very hard time remembering words regularly now. Um, but it makes it very hard for a small business trying to, worrying about the healthcare aspect. A local small business I go to quite regularly here, they have 10, maybe 12 employees. I think they have one, two, three, four, five, or six full-time employees, and a few part-time employees. But they they don't have a comprehensive uh, 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 health insurance package that they give to their employees. They end up giving the full-time employees uh, a check to go out and buy their own insurance every year. And company, and it's still expensive, especially if you got a guy who's, got, you know, diabetes, and he's been a diabetic his whole life. Diabetes is a very costly, uh, rephrase, diabetes can be a very costly uh, health condition. And, you know, we've been lucky enough in the last, few years that Donald Trump has worked to try to find ways to alleviate the strain of that particular disease. But there are so many other diseases that people are still functional, but at any time can turn very badly for that person and make them very, very sick. And we need some type of definitive way to make sure that people are uh, able to take care of themselves, take care of their families in the proper way. Um, all right, let's do this. I'm seeing on the map that I'm watching in real time, I'm seeing a lot of things flip. Um, Idaho has declared for Donald Trump with 56% of the votes in. Donald Trump has 54.3 to Biden. He's up by 12 points, 12 percentage points in Idaho. With 38% of the precincts reporting in Montana, Trump is up by 5.5%. Looks like Donald Trump is up in Nevada as well, but that's only 1%. They haven't really got all theirs in. California has just gone insane. 60% of their votes have been counted, and they're reporting 66.7 million for Joe Biden with 2.9 million for Donald Trump. Uh, Oregon, very, very similar story. Um, Smaller numbers, obviously, with Joe Biden at 1.1 million and Donald Trump at 769,000. And Washington State, uh, Joe Biden has 2 million votes to Donald Trump's 1. 88% of the votes cast have been counted in Texas, and Donald Trump is leading there by 6 points. Florida, 96%. Donald Trump's pretty much got Florida locked. Georgia is, Georgia's close though. Georgia's just like a few 100,000 votes apart between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, with Donald Trump being in the lead. But it's still relatively gets to relatively small voter turnout there. But they called for Donald Trump hours ago. North Carolina is 95% with Trump up by 1.5 points. Pennsylvania looks like Donald Trump is winning in Pennsylvania with over 6-point advantage. 8 points in Ohio and Michigan, and they are still pulling in. They're still pulling in votes. Let's see, what do we got here? I like this one a little bit better, the way that the Associated Press has everything lined out. You see, with 90% of the precincts reporting now, Iowa is Donald Trump up by 7%. Nevada still hasn't reported anything according to the Associated Press, which you saw different on the Washington Post's Washington Post page and the way that they're updating. But no, these again, in the numbers between these states, they're pretty much the same percentage-wise. I mean, the numbers are obviously much higher, or at least somewhat higher, as far as the total count. But you still have your 8.5%, your 9%, your 10%, your 6%, your 2%. Let's see, what's the closest race we have here? Yes, 1.5%. North Carolina seems to be the closest race in the swing states. So it is. It's becoming a wild night here in the 2020 election season on election night. It is not. Well, I mean, it is basically what everybody thought we were going to get. A lot of people thought we were going to get. We're going to get a very close race. I thought it was going to be like landslide victory, honestly, for Donald Trump. I thought we were going to see Donald Trump walk away with 340 or 350 electoral votes tonight. He would get everything except for like California, Oregon, Washington, New York. And by the end of next week, you would slowly see, all these votes trickle in, turning these states for Joe Biden. And in these, and then when it all is said and done, and it's all over with, you have more votes cast than people actually living in the U.S. Let me rephrase it. More ballots cast than the number of registered voters in the U.S. So, no, what I said before. We have roughly 325 million people, 330 million people in the U.S. I swear to God, I said, we're going to have so many people turn out. There's going to be, once they count all the mail-in ballots, you're going to have like 350 million votes total. You're going to have more votes cast than people actually live here in the U.S. I really thought that was what was going to happen. And, at which point you call shenanigans on somebody. I'm not sure who you're calling it on because I don't know who would win at that point. I mean, you would see the march toward Biden. Obviously, if Trump got a landslide victory and that was to happen, but it's hard to say. Does Trump really have the votes? Did Trump cheat himself? Like he's ostensibly been accusing the Democrats of, and there's an argument for that. In all honesty, that the Democrats have been cheating. They've been trying to change rules. They have been changing rules. They've been changing. They've been trying to make things. And I think I said this before, just earlier tonight. Sometime within the last 2 hours and 5 minutes, that it would appear that the Democrats are playing Calvin ball and making up the rules to fit them as they go along. I have a nephew that likes to play Calvin ball all the time with everything, all the time. Doesn't matter what it is. No. No, I mean, my cousins actually used to do that too. I had a cousin in, he lives in another state. But when we were kids, he was big into baseball. We were kids, all kids were baseball fans when I was a kid. So we're, playing baseball, softball, something one day, and it got to the point where a strike was a swing and a miss, and that was the only thing that was a strike. If you didn't swing at it, it wasn't a strike. If you swung at it and tapped it, even if it didn't go the right direction, it wasn't a strike. That was a nipper. How many nippers do you get, bro? How many? How many do you want? And that's kind of what the hyperbole, obviously at this point, but that's kind of what the Democrats have been doing this year, is saying instead of crying foul, they say nipper. When every time the Republicans cry foul, you're doing the, you're breaking the rules, you're breaking the law, and they're like, no, we're clarifying. Foul, nipper. You didn't swing, it's not a strike. Ball. How many of those do you get? 8, 4, and we can take the walk. That's the only thing that remained silent or remained standard was 4 balls is a walk, 3 strikes is three strikes is an out, but you can get as many nippers as you want. So and the Washington Post's map has just updated, or electoral vote standard has just updated. While Donald Trump is still projected to win over the more than 270, he has moved up to 239 with Joe Biden at 205. They have given him Montana. They have given him Ohio. And then, of course, all those other central states. Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, all of them. All those typical states. North, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Utah. All of them. Arizona looks like it's going to go to Joe Biden. We're still not getting anything from Alaska or Hawaii at all. It doesn't look like. They are starting to report now. So it looks like we will have some information from those here within the next few minutes probably, and we'll be able to get some type of idea of where we're at. According to the Washington Post and their total vote count, Joe Biden sits at 58 million votes nationwide, 58,475,248. Donald Trump has 57,263,173, which means he's just about 1.2 million votes less than Joe Biden, which is 1.1%. basically, is according to what is shown here. I think that is the very similar in numbers as to the popular vote count he had against Hillary, as far as the differential, the percentage. Um, that Donald Trump had against Hillary Clinton in 2016, uh, and it makes I don't know how he did not get Minnesota this year. I really do not know how he did not get Minnesota. Well, he didn't really focus on Minnesota, in all honesty. Donald Trump didn't really go to Minnesota very often. He did go to Wisconsin and Michigan, Pennsylvania, Florida. He went to a lot of the other swing states, but not really. But he didn't really go to Minnesota. Minnesota being a Democratic stronghold. He could have, though. He probably could have gone to Minnesota, campaigned in Minnesota hard, and taken Minnesota, which would have given him another 10 electoral votes, which, and in all honesty, he's not losing there by much. Couple 100,000 votes uh, in uh, in Minnesota, because and the reason I say this is there were six cities, six towns, major blue collar areas in Minnesota who they called it the Iron Range, who endorsed Trump this year. So it could have very easily turned out that Donald Trump could have taken Minnesota if he'd have campaigned there. And this vote count as of right now, and it's only 65%. Let's get this straight. It's only 65% of the votes have been counted, estimated. But it's still, it's a 9% difference. It looks like roughly between the two, almost 10. Donald Trump at 44.1% of the vote, and Joe Biden at 53.9. It could have very easily turned either direction. For in Minnesota, with the Iron Range and those, them really going for Trump, and it's entirely possible. Actually, let's do this. Let's zoom in on Minnesota and take a look at Minnesota itself. You see, but Minnesota, and I was talking earlier about how it's the same thing. Minneapolis, St. Paul, they voted Democrat. Rochester voted Democrat. Duluth and the surrounding areas in Duluth, they voted Democrats. The major city, St. Cloud, Minnesota, they voted. They look like they voted Republican heavily. So I suppose it's still entirely possible that because there's still some precincts that haven't reported yet at all. I don't know if they didn't have any voters, and they're not. That's why they're not. But I guess it's still possible. Like I said, it's a very close race. Talking less than just over 220, just over 220,000, just under 220,000 differential. Let's see. Right about 220,000 votes separate Joe Biden and Donald Trump in Minnesota. So it's entirely possible that these could change also, and Minnesota could go Donald Trump, giving him another 10 votes. Over at the Daily Wire, their map says that Donald Trump is at 165 electoral votes, with Joe Biden at 223. I like this one because it has all three of the major votes right here. In the House of Representatives, they have 145 seats for the Republicans and 129 seats for the Democrats as it stands right now. And in the Senate, you have 45 Republicans and 44 Democrats in the Senate, which is not too far away from what it was, in all honesty, just this year. The Senate was a very, very close race, or very, very close margin. There was not a supermajority in the Senate. And here's the thing. Coronavirus changed everything. Okay? Coronavirus made everything different. If we had not had the chaos that came along with COVID-19, it's entirely possible that you could. I mean, the Democrats were hurting. People were really becoming disenfranchised with the entire party. You had the liberal media, the liberal mainstream media, who were very, very, very anti-Trump, and they hated everything that Donald Trump did, and they didn't really talk about how bad the Democrats are doing. But if you were paying attention to any alternative media sources at all, you would hear about all the shenanigans and crap that the Democrats are doing, and it made for a pretty tough road to hoe for the Democrats to try and maintain any type of power and authority in Congress outside of the presidency. And right now, it is let's see. Oregon just went red, or just went blue for one of their senators. I don't necessarily like the way this looks. I like the fact they have the basic count up there, but I'm not real crazy about the rest of this. But about the rest of the way that their senatorial map looks. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was reading some of this information. The special elections in Georgia and Arizona, and the plus 33 seats scheduled to be up for election this year means 35 of the 100 U.S. Senate seats are on the ballot for 2020. And I don't know. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking they must. It looks like it's going to be balanced. It looks like it's going to end up being the same as it was going into this. It looks like you're going to be 49-51, 48-52 Republicans, and or Republican majority, and couple of things. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know how this is going to turn out. But for the sake of the presidency, whoever takes the presidency needs to get both the House and the Senate. Personally, in my opinion, I do not think that it needs to be the Democrats. I think, like I said a little bit ago, the Democrats have been playing Calvin ball. They've been, for lack of a better way to put this, they've been cheating this whole year. And not to say that the Republicans haven't, but the Republicans have been a little bit more on the sly, whereas the Democrats have been more overt about it. And it's ultimately affecting the integrity of the system in general. But let's see. We've got about 40 more minutes that I can be on this thing. And according to uh, the Washington Post, uh, Donald Trump now has 139 to Joe Biden's 205. Um, he's still projected to win by you know a narrow margin at the very least, 270. Um, looks like he might win by 20 electoral votes with 290, 295, somewhere in there. Um, and that is if nothing else changes. Uh, and that's just tonight's. I want to go ahead and make this stress this. That is just tonight's numbers, because this could all be different tomorrow or the next day. Maine, with 47% of the votes in, estimated, with 47% of the votes in, uh, Trump's only losing there by 23,000 votes, less than 23,000 votes. So that could easily swing his way. Rhode Island is less than 2,000 votes with 51% in. Let's see. Check out some of these other places that are close, that were close. Vermont. They've declared for Joe Biden in Vermont, but that's with less than 10, I don't know, 10,000. Or no, that's 110,000 votes. Let's get real here. Um, New Hampshire. New Hampshire, they've declared for Joe Biden, and it's less than 30,000 votes. Um, but they're saying it's 6% of the 6%. But 30,000 votes is not a lot. That could very easily be overturned um, with the mail-in ballots. Virginia, they've called Virginia. Virginia's 200,000 votes. At that there's 300 and looks like 307 million, roughly 307 million votes that have been cast in Virginia, and less than 200,000 votes separate, or just over 200,000 votes separate these candidates. Um, Donald Trump is up by looks like 87,000, 86,500, roughly 86,500 in Pennsylvania. I mean, a lot of these votes, and there were a ton of votes that came in for Democrats in the mail-in side. I mean, like 60% of the votes that were mailed in were marked as Democrat votes. So it's entirely possible that could swing the whole election. That was almost 3 million votes there in its own right. That was as many votes as we have right now, nearly, in Pennsylvania, cast tonight as part of the mail-in. So it's entirely possible that Donald, that Donald Trump does not take Pennsylvania. That when they start counting these mail-in ballots, and then it also comes down to are they legal? And I don't want to say, I'm not trying to be um, uh, an alarmist or say that it's fraud, but uh, Pennsylvania had a lot of early votes cast on the mail-in side, and between the mail-in and early voting, they had a lot of votes cast before the final debate. And then in the final debate, when Joe Biden said something to the effect of, "I will end up talking about banning fracking, phasing out fossil fuels, transitioning away from fossil fuels." Pennsylvania it's steel town, it's oil town, it's a lot of blue collar people, and there are a lot of people who were talking about wanting to change their votes in Pennsylvania. I mean, it was trending on Google on the search for how do I change my vote for and it was focused in Pennsylvania. So maybe a lot of these votes that have turned out today for Pennsylvania are people who already voted, and then they came in and voted now to override their previous vote. So, they're their mail-in ballot or whatever. So maybe half those mail-in ballots will be thrown out. It's it's hard to tell, and it's like I said, it's been a crazy year, not just for the electorate, but not just this election, but this year entirely, but particularly in the last couple of months of this election. Um, and I could sit here and I could continue to talk about the mainstream media and all the things the mainstream media has not done over this year. And how they protected the Democratic Party and how they protected their preferred candidate. But I don't know that it's I don't know that it's actually necessary. I mean, people who paid attention, they know what's going on. Um, but let's see, what do we got? Let's see, take one last look. Arizona, Hawaii, Alaska. See if they have anything reporting from either one of those two. They don't. Nevada, in very early numbers, 1% of the reporting. Let's see. Let's go over to this one. See how this one looks. Um, see the Google Associated Press swing state watch. It's not showing anything for. Wait a second. Nevada, yes, Nevada. There we go. But again, that's at 1% reporting. Donald Trump is up big time, like 50 points. That's going to change without a doubt. That will change here over the next few hours. As they report more and they count more. California, but really not 4.5 million, 4.8 million. It looks like 4.8 million votes, which isn't a big swing in all honesty. That's only 12, 8, 9, 10. That's only like 10 million people totally voting in California. So I'm not. I mean, anything can happen there. California, hell, you could have 10 million write-in votes. And but again, it all comes down to um, what these how they are going to look at these mail-in votes. And Donald Trump, there's been a lid put on Donald Trump. In all honesty, uh, social media, mainstream media, are not going to allow Donald Trump to say he won tonight because there's still mail-in ballots to count. Um, which is part of the reason I don't like this system that's going on right now. I don't like it because it's a disingenuous. You can't say you won, but if it looks like Joe Biden might, he can go ahead and declare. But Donald Trump can't. And see, Maine still has something to count. It's been I just really don't believe that I actually sat here and talked almost nonstop for almost 2.5 hours. I'll have to do it again for another 3 tomorrow. um, but yeah, the let's see, got about 30 minutes left, and you know what? We're coming into the polls are closed. I'm not getting anything. We're not getting anything from Alaska and Hawaii yet. Maybe I should have waited a little bit longer before I started looking at these. Let's go to some of these other sites and see what. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing. The Daily Wire site does have Donald Trump with a few more electoral votes. He's up to 174 to Joe Biden's 223. You have 150 representatives and 45 senators for Republicans with the 183 and 44 Republican senators or representatives and senators for Congress in this House and the Senate. Um, it's still, I guess it's still a little bit too early to call. Anyway, but see, the thing is, we're having the same thing this year that we had in 2016 with Trump Clinton. Very narrow, relatively narrow margins of victory in states. Could very easily, very easily turn, especially this year. I mean, they've all talked about how there has been record-setting mail-in balloting this year. So it's entirely possible that none of this means anything. And according to the district attorney or attorney general of Pennsylvania, it doesn't. I mean, he flat out said there's no way Donald Trump's going to win. No way that Donald Trump is going to win Pennsylvania. And let's see where we are at. Let's go look at WAPO. And it's still a possibility. He's only up by, it looks like 70,000 there. 670,000 votes, less than 500,000 votes. Donald Trump is up. So it is not by any stretch of the imagination that Donald Trump can. There is no feasible way that you can sit here and say that Donald Trump has definitively won the state of Pennsylvania. They still have a few more precincts reporting. 61% of the votes have been counted, according to the Washington Post, and it's 400. It's right at 670,000 votes is the difference, and that's not a lot. Pennsylvania is not a small populace. Again, it's in the east. The population of Pennsylvania is relatively high. I mean, you got Philadelphia, you have Harrisburg, you have Pittsburgh, three very populous cities, three very blue collar cities. So Pennsylvania is actually still up in the air at this point in time. It's going to be a wild ride over the next couple of days. But I'm going to go ahead and get the hell off of here. We will be recording an episode of Kitchen Conversations tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have that up on Friday. Head over to the website, aztecmultimedia.com, ASTECHMULTIMEDIA.com. You'll see all our different podcasts associated with Aztec Multimedia there. You will also see a section for blogs. Constantly updating the website. We're always trying to get new looks, trying to get it more attractive, trying to get things to get it to pop, and go ahead, head over there. Find me. I don't know that I actually told anybody who I am. This is Crashdown 321. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and mine, CRA5HD 0WN321, and you can on Twitter at CrashD CRA5HD. You can also find me on Parler at Crashdown, CRA5HD. But go ahead over to the website, and you'll be able to see all kinds of things going on over there. Great big plans for that, and plans. There's big plans, slow implementation right now. We got some things. We're working on it and trying to get it to the point where it is where we want it to be. But yeah, as of right now, according to the Washington Post, based on the current standings within the states, looks like Donald Trump could win the re-election in the presidency based on the states that are still have to finalize their reporting. Um, right now, he sits at 139 according to Washington Post. I just said WAPO. Let's see what the numbers the BBC is going to give him. 34 of 50 states reporting. Joe Biden sits at 205 with Donald Trump at 136. The Google and Associated Press Swing State Watch has Trump at 174 to Joe Biden's 223, which is where the Daily Wire has numbers as well. According to a lot of these things, it looks like the House and the Senate will looks like the Senate will stay the same. Looks like the Senate will stay primarily Republican, and the Senate may flip Republican, which would be very, very interesting if Donald Trump is able to get reelected. And irrespective of who gets elected, it could make it a very interesting next 4 years if we get the Senate to stay Republican and the House of Representatives to flip Republican. Shaping up to be a very wild ride over the next over the next few hours, couple of days probably. We should have a much better outlook by Friday, maybe tomorrow after. When we're looking, when we're recording the Kitchen Conversations with Bubba J and Crash podcast tomorrow, we will go ahead and take a look and see what transpired during the course of the evening, and talk a little bit about how the elections have turned out thus far, and what any new information that we have. But with that, I am going to say good night. Check us out. Go ahead and head over to the website. You will see all our podcasts there. You can also follow the podcast on whatever platform you listen to your podcast on, whether that be Apple, Google Podcasts. What's that other one? Spotify. So, geez, how could you forget Spotify with Joe Rogan? Just making them like the super gorilla on the market now. But yeah, you can follow us on your favorite podcast platforms. We're available on most. I'm not going to say all of them, but we're available on most of them. So with that, you all have a good night. See you tomorrow. Take it easy.